Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast. I am feeling this is going to be a very flowy and pleasant conversation today. Welcome to the show, Acey Holmes.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here,
Me,
chat
me
with you.
too. Me too. It's Tuesday in south of Denver in Colorado, I should say, and it's bright and early here
Uh-huh.
in Melbourne. I won't say what time it is, but it's super bright and early. But AC, super excited to chat to you. You are talking my language, and it's like you've been deep in the flow cycle, and I'll let you talk about that shortly for the last 2 years. But you're a keynote speaker and founder of Boardless, not Borderless, Boardless, and Playful Work Design. And you help organizations use play, flow, and psychological safety to improve culture and performance. You're a former pediatric speech language pathologist, and you're a leading advocate for play at work with TEDx talk and workshops that translate neuroscience into practical team rituals. I'll say neuroscience and flow science because there's a bit of a difference, right? But yeah, it's a combination of both. And you also founded Solve, Learn, Play, and you consult globally. When I booked you in for the podcast and asked you what was one unique insight or lived experience when it came to life leadership and or business, you said playfulness is powerful. It's kind of pretty basic, pretty simple. Playfulness is powerful. Tell us how you're going to flow, how you got to play. Tell us your journey. And yeah, how long have you been in like having your own business?
Yeah. So I started this business in the concept that it is today about 3.5 years ago. Prior to that, as you mentioned, I was a pediatric speech language pathologist. So I literally played for a living on the floor with children and blocks
Oh
and cars
yeah.
and bubbles and whatnot. It was a really, really fantastic job until it wasn't. I just got traditionally burnt out. Good old classic, I was sort of in the education sector and also the healthcare sector. And obviously there's a lot going on with those industries in the world. And really just good old traditional burnout.
Yeah, I've
Decided
been
I
there.
needed to pivot, start. Yeah, yeah. Most of us have, right? Um, like try to pivot, what else can I do with what of that job had been so important to me and self-reflection and that sort of thing, and realized that my um kind of guiding light really was just play in general. So the importance of play for children was where I was focusing back then, and started doing some research into what future leadership was going to look like. So for our kids that are, now in elementary school, younger than that, preschool, what's their life going to look like when they're in their 20s and 30s and 40s? What kind of leaders are they going to be? And started to do these deep dives into research about what work culture is like and leadership and in business and that sort of thing. And I realized very quickly that yes, our my an article I was writing at the time was called Our Future Leaders Need Play. And I realized, oh no, our current leaders need play.
Yeah,
We need
totally.
play right now. As adults, like yes, the kids need to play, but there's a lot of people doing that work. And at the time I hadn't found there's a good kind of cohort of us that are doing this sort of work, but at the time I didn't know, and I still don't believe it's enough. So pivoted into bringing this concept of we should play at work. We should all be playing at work as professional, educated, serious adults. We should be playing.
Love it. And so then tell us a little bit about playing at work. Like have you done what training have you done any training? Have you done a Lego? Is it a Lego is that?
Lego serious play.
Yeah, have you done
Yep.
like
So that
yes.
exists. I have not. That costs about $3,000 to get certified. And it's a very strict program.
Yeah.
When I started developing, it's a great, sorry, let me preface. It's a wonderful program. The facilitators that get it and bring it into teams are absolutely fantastic. The way my workshops and programs that I do with teams are much more customized and personalized. So I didn't want to bring in um, too much structure for myself in the realm of play. But I do pretty much every workshop I do, there are some Lego bricks included.
Yeah, cool.
And it's the, the concepts of it are there. But yeah, that's a good one for some people. I think I might have lost the thread on your question. I'm so
No,
sorry.
no, no. I was asking you because I've always seen play, right? And we were talking about this pre-show, play and flow, and I'm keen to unpack that. And definitely let's get into this flow cycle because it's such a great cycle, and it's so good for leaders. It's so good for individuals, teams, and businesses as a collective as well, right? But no, the reason I was asking about that, like in terms of because I've always heard about this Lego play. Qualification, and it's interesting you said it's very structured and it sounds like you're more bespoke, and I think that depending on and it's not just like dissing Lego the Lego play at all, like it sounds like an amazing but it sounds like that, it's Lego, right? It's of course they're going to have structure, and
Right.
this is how you
Yeah.
have to do
Yeah.
this form of training with your
Yeah.
clients because it has to be specifically Lego. It's a big branch, but what you were saying was, by the sounds of things, is that you go in and then you understand what's going on with the client to then work through, okay, well, what bespoke play program am I going to put
Yeah.
around them? And I'm assuming
Yes.
that now that you've been diving into the flow cycle for the last 2 years, I'll let you explain what the flow cycle is. I'm crystal clear on it, but I'll let you explain it and how you work with businesses and how you apply it. Yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So, oh, right. So the concept of what I bring into teams is very customized and it is bespoke. I do what's called a culture audit, and we look and see what areas that might be addressed. And the play that I bring in is actually based on Rene Proyer's definition of the playfulness. So he's a research scientist, a psychologist in the personality science space. And his definition of playfulness is the ability to reframe a situation, any situation, to be interesting, entertaining, or stimulating. So that's what I help teams bring into their work. It is generally for the average professional adult wildly more accessible for them than saying, okay, we're going to have fun and play today, because that makes everybody go, what I no.
Yeah.
They kind of shut down. No, 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 we don't need to have fun. We're not here to have fun. I'm like, oh, but can we make it interesting? Can we make it entertaining? Can we make it stimulating? And so it goes on from there. um the way I have applied that I have brought in flow into my work, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, the way you worded the question a minute ago is how I found flow, and I'm not even sure. I know it was in the beginning of when I was doing this work, and I think I told you before we were recording that I was familiar with the flow state, this concept of the flow state. And I suppose maybe even for myself, I was just trying to read about, like, okay, how do I maximize this flow state? And found the research
Really,
based on Herbert Benson.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Because it really helped. Well, you had traditional burnout, right? So you were kind of almost like, by the sound of
Yes.
things, going on an exploration of, I don't want to ever be like
Yes.
this again. I don't want to ever be like this again. How do I ensure other people
Absolutely.
don't do this as well?
Yes.
If it's anything like
Yes.
what happened to me in my burnout, I went and studied through the Flow Research Collective into how do I be how do I be zero to dangerous? So how do I go from flatline or survival into thriving mode, and know that when I'm
Yeah.
surviving, how do I get out of and back into it, right? And as part of that, I learned about the flow cycle, and so
Yeah.
obviously there's the struggle, yeah, there's the release, there's the flow, and there's the
Right.
recovery, and there's the four parts to the cycle. So maybe you, as
Yep.
kind of exploring play,
Yeah.
you stumbled across the
Yeah.
cycle. This is where I'm thinking, and you're like, oh,
Yep.
because struggle,
Yes.
you can,
It,
yeah. So I'll hand it back to you, but
yeah,
maybe
I
that's
do.
how you got into it.
I know I read, oh gosh, is there one with fire in the name?
Oh,
His book,
yes,
Stealing Fire.
yes, Stephen Kotler and
Stealing Fire.
Jamie,
Yep.
yeah,
Wheel.
yeah,
So I read that first, and then I came across, it was like an audio book that was sort of presented like a podcast, and it was Stephen Kotler. Um, I think Age of Superman, Rise of Superman. I don't
yes,
know, but that's
yes,
where he outlined. Um, the flow cycle to me, and I remember where I was sitting when I was listening to it. I took off my headphones afterwards. I turned to an entrepreneur friend of mine and I said, "This changes everything." And I told her what I had learned, and she said, "This is, yeah, yeah, no kidding." And so deep dive, because so the relationship for the flow cycle to my work is that through what I understand, what I had already understood and learned from my neuroscience research into just play, the things that happen in our brain as an adult, even so that it doesn't change across our lifespan. It's in children, yes, but it's also in adults. The things that happen in our brain when we are playing are oh so very similar to what's happening in our brain in the flow state, as far as what neurochemicals were
Yes.
released, the dopamine, serotonin, anandamide, endorphins, all of that kind of stuff. And the big difference is that transient hyperfrontality. So sometimes when we're playing, obviously we're not experiencing the, lowering of our prefrontal cortex. So generally the way I teach it, and it always makes people stop in their tracks, and I have to make sure I said it in the right order. But the way I say it is that all flow state, that third stage, all flow is play, not all play is flow.
Yes.
But if you are
That's
in
what
the
I've
flow state,
always, yeah.
whatever, yes, yeah,
Can you say
yeah.
that again,
So
please?
whatever we're doing, yeah, I know. You have to, it's like, okay, so not all, so well, start with the all, right? The positive. All flow is play. So if you're
Yeah.
in flow, you are playing. All flow is play, not all play is flow.
Yeah.
So it is possible to play and get benefits without being in that third stage flow state. Which then, as I continued to explore this, I realized that like, okay, so yes, because we don't like need the play for the flow state because it just is. That's just the way it is. But where we need to try and consciously apply it is in the recovery phase. So we think about that recovery phase, we're dropping down, we're coming out of that flow state, which is where I'm sure, as you know, everyone forgets about, right? We've gotten into flow, like, look at what I did. This was amazing. And the world is like, yep, do it again right now. Get
Yeah,
back at it.
100%.
And it's
Yeah,
like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
100%. That's where the burnout
Yeah.
happens. Yeah,
So we
that's
need to
where the burnout. Mm.
exactly, exactly. So we need to recover, rest first, obviously, and then it's my belief that if we can add in what I call low stakes play into that recovery phase, it boosts the recovery even further. Because again, in play, we get dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, all of those awesome, awesome, wildly beneficial neurochemicals. Not at the level of flow state, not as high, not as peak, right? But they're boosted a little. So when we're in those doldrums of that recovery phase and then we rest first, rest is still, we cannot skip the rest, right? But then if we add some low stakes play, then we are so much more physiologically, mentally, physically prepared to move back into that struggle release and then
Yeah, so
around.
what's the
And
low stakes play mean? Like, what does that look like?
so again, we're just thinking of really low level things because I also believe that the release phase is also play. Like it's again with the concept of like what is play, that has to sort of be understood as well. But we have this concept of you get that good idea when you're on a walk or when you're taking a shower, right? Because that release phase, we've released ourselves in the nitric oxide, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're in flow. Like that's the trigger. And so the release phase really, it's a form of play within itself because we've been in that struggle phase and we've been working in like maybe redundant, maybe it was repetitive or boring or probably hard or whatever. We were struggling, right? But then when we pull ourselves away from that struggle, into that release phase, it's like a little bit of play there as well. So if we can think about the concept of, I have personally not done quite as much work into like the concept of building your own triggers, super specifically, but it's something that I've been kind of dabbling in, and I hope to put some more research into it this year. But it seems to me that would also work. So low stakes play is like actually, have you seen one of my new favorite things that I've seen? Because like adult coloring books became such a big deal
Yes, I
like in the
remember them.
past decade, Have you seen the little ones that are like Post-it note size. And they're very simple. And it's not like you don't have to worry about shading. You could do it all in one color, and it's just one little icon, and it would probably take maybe a minute and a half. But it's got some lines, and you just
play post-it notes.
they're just, yeah, yeah, but they're little books, and somebody is a really great artist and makes them adorable. So that would be one. My personal favorite one is this I don't know if you can see it. It's called Mondrian Blocks,
Yeah.
and it's like a puzzle game. If you remember Tangrams, but you just, I don't know, it's just a puzzle, so maybe, but this one, it's like a short puzzle. It's not like a
Yeah.
huge jigsaw, right? That you have to go out and do. And I think people think like, well, I don't have the 30 minutes it takes for me to go take a shower or put my shoes on and go outside and go for a walk. And it's like, but you don't have to. It can be very low stakes. I actually made a deck of cards that's 50 ideas for that very thing. And it's like, draw a line on a post-it and then make it into something, or ask a friend to send you a funny picture that they took this week.
Yeah, cool.
Just really, really very, very simple.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. I love the way you've factored play into the flow cycle. So to be clear, the flow cycle starts in the struggle phase, and the struggle is when it's kind of twofold. It can be a good thing or a bad thing. Struggle can be when you're completely cognitive overloaded and
Right.
exhausted and all of that. But it also can be when you're in a building a business, for example, and you're thinking the research and you're researching and
Yep.
researching, and you're almost like you're casting the net out so wide. And then you get to a
Yeah.
point, and
Yeah.
you can be in the struggle phase for quite some time. I look at struggle as a bit of it's either you're in survival mode where you're in the hamster wheel, or
Yeah.
you're in a problem solving or solution problem finding mode where you're doing all the research to work through, well, what does this all mean?
Yeah.
And then you move into the next part of
Yeah.
the flow cycle, which is the release. And the release is if you're in that problem finding solution mode, it's when you, like you say, you step away and you then subtract. I use the language of subtractive psychology. You subtract away that
Mm.
what you don't need to get you become clear on
Yeah.
what the solution is. If you're in survival mode, like if you're in burnout, you're subtracting what no longer
Right.
serves you to then move into the flow cycle, the flow aspect of it, where you know, you're
Yeah.
you're focused, you're clear, you're in flow, like everything
Yeah.
becomes effortless.
Yeah.
And then it's obviously moving into the recovery. Now I've really shortened that down, but the recovery for me isn't doesn't have to be like this either. The recovery can also be celebrating the wins, also rest, recovery, recharging. If you think about
Yeah.
athletes, they when they're performing like or they're in like season for football or something, they have an off season, which is called recovery. And so this
Right.
this is a continuous cycle. So we're always in this cycle and
Yep.
we have to factor in that recovery, which
Yeah.
is like you say. And I love it so much because it
Yeah.
actually keeps you a sustained high performer in terms of like if you're able to
Absolutely.
stand and tap into this cycle, and obviously that's where play comes into it as well. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about, I want to understand how you're translating neuroscience and flow science into practical team rituals. You talked around these rituals, and I love that idea. Like, so you go into businesses, you do a cultural audit. Do you do an individual audit on the team? Like, do you do a team audit? Do you do an individual, like an audit on the individual? Like, how do you to get to the team rituals?
So, yeah, so that depends on the team. So there's some teams who are not ready for that in the beginning, and that ends up being a step that's quite a bit later. I try and make sure to always start with the education of what play is for adult brains, right? Because they're still very, and I get it. Like, I mean, I used to be that person. Then there are still sometimes where I'll go to an event or something. They're like, here's the fun thing. And I'm like, Is it though? Like maybe not for everybody. So we talk about what play really is, what happens in our brain when we're doing it. I lead teams down the path of so Renee Proyer that I mentioned earlier, who defines I used his definition of playfulness. He validated four personal play identities for adults in the like personality trait realm, whimsical, relational, intellectual, and lighthearted. And a lot of the barrier when we talk about bringing play into work is that most people think of playfulness and being playful as the lighthearted play identity, which it can be. It is valid, but there are three other ways to
Yeah.
be playful. One of them being intellectually playful. So the my our friends, me included, that just love a spreadsheet because look, a spreadsheet, these people like that's your play and that's okay. So helping teams understand that within themselves
Oh,
and
cool.
then realize like, oh, so one person planned this thing and half of us hated it. This is why. And it's okay to hate it. But there's also this aspect of like, wait, should I have had fun at that? But I didn't really have fun and I didn't want to go and I don't want to go again. And then you have people feeling bad and they feel like they don't belong. So that's generally where we work towards. And then once folks are ready to truly like take a look at their values and understand like what kind of cultural organizational behaviors they're going to start to implement, then we start to build the rituals in. And that will always depend on their balance of those play identities and what the difference is and um also what the types of tasks are they have to do, um
So do you
that
have
can make the
something as
difference too. There's some
do you have play rituals then? Like, have you created like play rituals, or it depends again on the team and what?
It depends again on the team. Yeah. So some general ones that are usually fairly like um blanket, like any team could just pick it up. Already speaking of Lego, if you have a ping pong table in your office, which a lot of people, a lot of companies have that ping pong table and maybe people play it for a week or two, or maybe there's
Yeah.
two dudes that always play it, but generally it's getting dusty. Rip the net off and just cover it in Lego and just Lego bricks, just big piles of Lego bricks. And that can be, so let's say you and I had a long client call and we worked with that client really hard for an hour and a half and whew, we're a little bit tired but we're proud. And even if it was a great experience of it, we can just go out and you might go in and build a tree, right? You might pick it up and I might just find all the red ones. And then we're talking and the table is there and then maybe the CEO rounds the corner and he sees that I have this tall thing of a red tower and he sees a red brick on the far side that I haven't seen yet and he hands it to me and all of a sudden I'm talking to the CEO and there's no pressure and that sort of thing. So I love a Lego table. I'm a big fan of teams providing fidgets like in the office. I have them
Yeah.
all over my office. Um, Helping them sort of reduce the stigma. Like they are toys, but they're also not toys. They're very good for our brains and processing. Not for everyone, but having them as an option. Um, and then I also like usually get pretty good responses to this one that they'll choose they can call it whatever they want to call it, but a superhero day. And internally, I mean, it depends. I don't know, some teams might have a client relationship where they could do it with clients, but internally, everyone has to communicate with each other like they're the Hulk or Wonder Woman. So everyone would choose a superhero. And if I have to send you, oh, we need to talk to John about whatever, I have to put it in the words that would make it sound like the Hulk.
Cool.
So little things like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I see you said that there's like I guess it's new, right? It's still very new in business. Like play's been around forever in a day. Flow's been around forever in a
Right.
day. What do
Right.
what do you come up against in terms of the resistance towards this sort of? Because I feel like this is, I mean, flow science in particular, obviously play neuroscience. It's part of the new world order. It's part of the, you talk around the new world order of leadership. I'm a big believer in that. I've actually termed it something like in terms of like it's soulful high flow conscious leadership, and I put high flow into what
Oh
I
yeah.
think is leadership, and for me it's around the people presence, purpose. And performance, you would no doubt throw play in there. I've got is in performance for
And
me,
it works.
and it
Yeah.
works, right?
Yeah.
But it's very me.
Yeah.
And I know that, my transition from my old world into this world, and people are like, huh? You were always doing what you used to do. Why are you doing this now? And I like
Yep.
it seems a bit like can be come across as flowy, like
Right.
that
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
place.
Yep. Yep.
How do you yeah, one, do you come across resistance around it? And two, how do you then respond? How do you handle it?
So as far as business case and that sort of thing goes, usually it becomes ooh, where's the like ROI number proof on this?
Yes, that's what I was, yeah.
That I have the Gallup engagement scores for you. You know, that exists and that's out there, but it's not something it because play and being in flow and all of that that's happening is so inherently human, you can't necessarily put
Yeah.
structured number metrics. Um, Depending on the team, I've got a spreadsheet full, I love spreadsheet, of potential KPIs and that there are ways to measure them, but generally they're just not the traditional ways that most businesses are measuring things, which is unfortunate. So mostly it comes down to that I just end up working with folks that are sort of ready. They have
Yeah.
gotten to the point where they realize something needs to be different. It hasn't been working for 10, 20, 100 years.
Yeah.
So maybe we should try something new. And again, that is also why I start with education first, because I think it has been my experience so far that when people hear that what's happening in our brains when we play and how biological it is and what it can do for us and the benefits, they go, oh, maybe we will give this a shot.
Yeah.
Um,
So true.
so that's, yeah. So I try to do public speaking as much as possible to sort of be that like in so that people
But
can get
leader.
that
Yeah.
concept of, oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
So
And what's been like, I mean, in terms of your own business, I think, did you say you started it 3 years ago? What would you say, like,
about 3.5, yeah.
have you had moments where, like, what's the opposite to play? Like, what happens when you're not in play? Like,
Um, so there's the a couple things. So Dr. Brian Sutton Smith, Scott, I think it's Brian Sutton Smith. I don't know why I'm flanking on that all of a sudden. I'm pretty sure he's the first one that says it. There's a couple of these that have been attributed. Is that anyway? You know what I mean. Um, and he says the opposite of play is not work, it's depression. So if we think about what happens in our brain when we play and we're not giving our brain those kinds of neurochemicals, and that potentially could lead to depression. So that's been one quote. And then there's the concept that I tend to lean on a little bit more. And this one has been, who knows who said it, George Orwell or Benjamin Franklin or who knows, right? It's one of those that is truly just, they don't know who said it first. But you don't stop playing because you get old, that you get old because you stop
oh,
playing.
I love it.
And if we start to think about how we get brain-derived neurotropic factors when we play, when we're being playful, that is what we secrete in our brains, and that the brain-derived neurotropic factors is what keeps our brain at its best possible function. We're building neurons and synapses and new connections, and just overall cognitive health is boosted with that. Then scientifically, if we keep playing, we will keep our brain healthier longer as we age.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Sounds fascinating. And intuition plays, I feel like intuition plays a big part in this. There's all this new research coming out. Stephen Kotler in particular is doing a whole heap of research around intuition and the synergies with intuition and flow. And I do think and I feel like play would be conducive to making you more intuitive, giving you that clear, fresh perspective as well. Because like you say, it's the prefrontal cortex, right? It's the newest part of the brain that's allowing us
Right.
to come up with those ideas. What's been the biggest, what have you noticed as the biggest change in you since transitioning from your previous career being in traditional burnout to now being in the business you're in and, you ultimately playing most days of the week? Like,
Yeah.
what would you say you've noticed the biggest difference in you?
I am absolutely 100% so much more creative. And I'm also in a better place to acknowledge that creativity. So, I'm not an artist, right? Yeah, I can't draw. That was something that I said for a very, very long time. And I've now explored like just playing with art. And I'm trying to peel this off so I can show it to you. That's not going to show. I'll try. And one of my favorite little playful activities, another short, low stakes activity, is a scribble bird. Have you ever heard of that? So you like close your eyes or you just don't look at your paper and you just whatever scrap piece of paper and you literally just scribble without looking for 3 seconds.
I love it.
Just pen to paper, scribble without looking. And then you look at it and you find a place to put a beak and feet and an eye and you make like an
How
adorable
cute.
little bird. And like if you ever asked me to draw a bird, there's no chance it would look like this cute little creature, right?
It's so
And
cool.
then my son, granted, he's 12, but he told me, he said, Mom, you need to like find somewhere. You should sell that on Etsy. Hold on. I can't get it off. This was another scribble, like literally just a scribble with a black marker that I then took colors. And it's like this adorable little bear.
Oh, isn't
Like,
it?
I didn't mean to draw a bear. Like, so the only things I added other than the color are the nose and the whiskers and the eyeball
Oh, how
and
cool.
his little feet.
You could you could create a
But
little,
like,
yeah, you could create a book out of this. It's amazing.
yeah, so the concept of like that I feel more creative and that I don't even know how to explain that feeling though. I mean, I even still like I was about to say, I almost feel envious of real artists, like what's a real artist, but like people who do get this feeling all of the time, like regularly, like that must be so cool. So probably that I am more creative and it just in general, I'm like lighter might be the right word. Like even in my personal life, I think I just because there's oh, I just remembered where I discovered Stephen Collar. Uh, Andrew Huberman
Yeah.
talks about him in a episode from several years ago now about play. And then so he talked about Stephen Collar and also Charlie Hone. Um, and Charlie Hone's big thing was that he started making his a conscious effort to make his conversations with his wife more playful. And
Yeah.
so just
Love it.
thinking about it in all that aspect. So it's definitely been life-changing for me for
I
sure.
love it. What would you say is what do you see as what does the future of play and flow look like for you in business and for leaders?
Well, hopefully it'll just be more present. I was just on a pre-interview for another podcast right before this, and he said, This timing is so good. Everyone needs this. Next year it's gonna be all over the place. I hope so. And I am the type of person, like I said, there's a fairly it's small relatively as far as who's talking about things in business, but there's a lot of us talking about play
Yeah.
and bringing it into work. So I hope it continues to expand. I mean, the concept of like, I don't see it as competition at all. I want more people talking about it, more people taking it in. Businesses need it in different ways. So hopefully it will come a lot more. And as from a research standpoint, I would really, really, really love to see quite a bit more research on flow and ADHD. Um, especially in adults,
Yeah,
obviously.
agree.
Just yeah, from what we understand about the prefrontal cortex and like, do I just I don't know. Yeah, I just have so many questions for it, and if I had the time and the finances and the wherewithal to get a PhD, I would love to just only research that. I think it would be amazing.
Yeah.
But so hopefully that'll come out more soon.
Yeah, I do think it's where I think we're coming into a time with the New World Order, with this is going to be it's the new science. It's the new science of leadership. It's like
Right.
it's head and heart. It's putting it all together. You need both. And play is not that
Yeah.
like loosey-goosey, oh, you can't be playing, like there's no ROI against this.
Right.
This results in, and I bring flow into this as well, flow states. It results in guaranteed ROI when it comes to creativity, innovation,
Right.
productivity, learning and memory. There's even stats now around intuition. It's everything
Yeah.
you need in
Yeah.
skills. You learn skills faster. It's everything you need in
Yep.
business in
Yep.
today's world order.
Yeah.
And especially with the roles,
Yeah.
like in terms of critical thinking, resilience, those sorts of roles, like, yes, AI is here, but I studied
Right.
with the Flow Research Collective during 2023 around the future of flow. And this was all, AI was part of it, but it was also then how do you bring in like the human potential? And so we need more of this than ever.
Yeah.
What would be one,
Yeah.
one last question for you? What would be one piece of advice or tip you would give somebody who was just like, play, what are you talking about? I can't do any form of play today. It's Wednesday here. What would be one piece of advice or midweek hack or tip you would give anyone to just start to experience or experiment with play?
If it's something like truly actionable to do in the next 2.5 minutes, that I would recommend the Scribble Bird. Just like because it takes literally less than 2 minutes to do it. So do you really not have time? Like, so if it's I don't have time today. Yes, you do. You do have 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds to scribble on your paper and make this little bird. Um, and then if there's any like, oh, well, maybe that was mildly joyful. I would really encourage people, especially ones who are like, no, no, play is not going to be part of my life, is to explore the personal play identities
Yeah.
and just dive in a little bit deeper and realize that like maybe play isn't what you think it is and it's not this performative. You don't have to be frolicking. You don't have to be silly. You don't even have to be childlike. You can be in a spreadsheet. You can be coding. It's like renaming what play is for you, I think can be really powerful for people and realizing that, it's not just fun and games.
I love it. How do we find out more about you, AC? How do we find out more about your business, you, TED Talks?
Yeah. So my website is playfulworkdesign.com. Um, Super quick. If you Google Playful Work Design, my website will not come up first. Oh no, entrepreneur, SEO fail, right? No. What comes up first is actual scientific white papers. So it's an area of science that is expanding overseas, mostly right now, of course. But I'm excited to see more of it coming, job crafting, job design, and that sort of thing. But yeah, my website, playfulworkdesign.com. My TEDx, my name, Acey Holmes, is pretty Googleable, I'm not,
Yeah,
Jennifer Smith. So usually if you just did Acey Holmes and TEDx, it should pop up probably in your Google. But it's also linked on my speaker page on my website. So, um, but yeah, and that website is pretty much just a brain dump from me. So
I love it.
if
Very
you
cool.
had a question about it, it's probably there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's very cool. And I look forward to potentially getting you back on the podcast next year and you and I looking into that crystal ball and going, oh my gosh, like everyone's now
We're
into yeah, they're
right.
right into flow, they're into play, like they're into it all. So,
Yes.
AC, it's been awesome chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great Tuesday.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you.